So what I want to do actually, so we always start with a review of book 7, which can be, or the previous book, which can be a little more in depth this time, since I think neither of you guys were there for book 7. For Uzlem, since you haven't been there at all. So we are reading the Odyssey, book by book, together and discussing it from books 1 through 12, and right now we've done 1 through 7 already. So let me catch you up on where we are till this point. So Odysseus is the hero of the story, and Odysseus went and fought in the Trojan War. He's from Ithaca. Greece. He went to Troy, which is actually in modern Turkey, and he fought there. This is according to the story. This is not necessarily, or yeah, that's a good way to put it, not necessarily historical fact. I don't believe we have any access to whether any of these characters were real people or not. And so Odysseus goes from Ithaca to Troy, fights in Troy. You have 2 books. You have the Iliad and the Odyssey, which are like Homer's 2 great works of Greek literature. And in the Iliad, we have the story of the Trojan War, and in the Odyssey, we have the story of Odysseus returning after the Trojan War. And so he's originally trapped on an island by the nymph goddess Calypso. She falls in love with him, so she does not allow him to return home to his family, his wife, and his son. So Penelope is his wife. She has been very patiently waiting for him. She has had no relations in any sense with any other men. Instead, she has been weaving loyally for him. Weaving is a sign of chastity in ancient Greece because women can do it. They don't need any men around. They can stay home, so they don't have to really leave the house, which was a good thing back then. And so she's been weaving and waiting for him this whole time. What has happened is there's a group of men called the suitors who all want to get with Penelope, and it's because she's super beautiful and she's super rich, because Odysseus is rich. And so these suitors want to get with him, and they are also eating up a lot of his wealth. Wealth in ancient Greece, of course, is at least partially determined by livestock. So they have been slaughtering a lot of his livestock and eating it. And so there's the suitors, and we don't like them. And then we also have Telemachus. Telemachus is Odysseus' son. He was just a child when Odysseus went out to fight the Trojan War. Now he's entering manhood, and Telemachus is actually on a journey to find his father as well. He doesn't know whether his father is alive or dead, and so Athena, the goddess of wisdom, who is aiding Odysseus on his journey home, has been looking for him, or helping Telemachus to kind of reconnect with his father, and she kind of sends Telemachus out on a journey, as well as she is also aiding Odysseus on the way home. So where book 6 left off essentially is Odysseus left Calypso's island, and Poseidon's angry with him. That doesn't really matter for the purposes of where we are today. Odysseus ends up on an island where he meets a beautiful princess, and there's this underlying sexual tension the whole time. She's actually doing laundry naked in the river. She's washing clothes, and she's with two other girls, and they're all naked, washing the laundry, blah, blah, blah. So we have this very obvious sexual tension. Odysseus himself is also naked after the storm. So basically, that's broadly where we left off. Odysseus has landed on their island and is going to need some help. And at the end, she gives him some advice. Come to the palace tomorrow, and I will help you. You can go to my mother and father should be able to help you on your journey home. So that's where we left off. This is a graphic novel of the Odyssey. Book 7 we have here. So, Mary, this is going to be tough for you to... I was going to say, you want to explain what happens here. You want to try and explain what happens here. If you were getting the graphic novel and you didn't know what was going on here, what would you say happens here?
Well, there's a pretty girl and there's a guy behind her. He looks a little hulky and lurking, so I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy.
So that's
Uh,
Odysseus. This is Odysseus.
okay. And so she's carrying a vase of something. I guess this is a picture of them walking down, so he's a bit behind her. And then let's see, that must be the palace that they're headed to.
Mm-hmm.
And trees with fruit or flowers on, and some sort of ghostly looking thing in front of Odysseus.
Okay, so what happens here in book 7 is Odysseus follows the instructions he's gotten from the princess at the end of book 6, and so he is going to the palace, like she said, and she basically says, "Go to my mother, and my mother can help you get home." So he is walking to the palace, and he meets this girl who actually ends up being Athena, the goddess Athena in disguise. He doesn't, I don't believe he knows it's Athena, but the other thing about her is that she is kind of creating this like magic cloud around him, and the reason for that is that the inhabitants of this polis are somewhat xenophobic. And so they don't really, she doesn't, she knows, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, knows that the best way for him to kind of get to the queen is to kind of show up and it kind of appear out of nowhere. So that she doesn't really want the whole town knowing he's there. So she guides him, she's a girl, she guides him to the palace. And then at some point she vanishes. And so then we can pick up here. You want to keep going, Mary?
Okay, so he's heading into the palace,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't see the lower part of the graph. It says hello to the dog, or else they're statues. It looks mechanical.
Yeah, I believe that's the. I believe that's just the artist's interpretation. Right. So basically, one of the things that we notice here, Odysseus noticed a lot in book 7. Is just how spectacular this palace is. So he kind of lands. We definitely have the impression this is just like a great society when we are here, because it's beautiful everywhere. It is incredibly wealthy. This looks super futuristic. That looks kind of futuristic even by modern standards, right? So ancient Greece, that's just an artist's interpretation, but he's like, this is an absolutely amazing, he has an absolutely amazing impression of the palace, so, and the kingdom consistently. So okay, he walks in, the princess has given him instructions to walk in and walk right up to the queen. How it actually happens in the book, which appears to differ slightly in the graphic novel, is that he walks right up to the queen, and basically right when he's at the queen is when the fog around him vanishes. So he appears, he seems to appear by magic. So that's kind of what happens. So Odysseus walks right up to the queen. Okay, you want to read this?
Well, and she's weaving, it looks like, with her women friends around. Okay, noble queen, hear my plea. Show your great generosity. A more piteous man you have never seen than I, who kneel before you now. Years of troubles, countless heartaches I've endured upon the sea, and now I'm wrecked upon your shore. All I want is to see my homeland again, my family, and my high-roofed hall.
Sounds good. So he makes a plea to the queen.
And is there significance to this fire, or is it just going?
I don't think there's any significance to the fire.
Okay. Right. Rise, stranger, you speak well. You speak well. Zeus watches over all beggars, and to honor him, we will grant your plea. Fear no more. Our ships and our sailors have no equal among mortals, and they will speed you safely home across the sea. Odysseus responds, stranger, it's true. I will command a ship to be ready tomorrow, but first enjoy our house. Oh, I guess she's still talking. First
so this is King Alkinoos. So her husband is King Alkinoos. So here's Odysseus, and Alkinoos is adding in.
Yes. Okay, so he's doing his hospitality thing. Mm-hmm. We'll command a ship be ready tomorrow, but first enjoy our hospitality. Join our feast. When you have eaten, you can tell us your name and where you come from.
Very nice. And now, Mary, what is the hospitality thing? Just remind me. What is the? You said we're seeing the hospitality thing. What is that a signal of?
Well, it's welcoming strangers and feeding and clothing and housing them in your abode, whatever it is, because it seems to be a pattern across the Mediterranean area, maybe much farther out, but it still holds today. In Islam, being hospitable is very important.
Right. And what does it what does it signal to us as readers when this?
Oh, they're going to help him get out and get home.
Right. They're good, essentially. They're good. We like them. These people were instantly hospitable. That's a sign they're well educated. I think we talked about this, Evgenos, which literally means like from a good clan, which is the modern Greek word for polite. And so, when they're from a good clan, they're good people, they're polite, and so we like them. So our first impression of this civilization is very positive. They were very welcoming to him and showed hospitality. So that's a very good thing.
Oh God, who's the one? Do we have the name of the woman? Anyway,
yeah.
She's the.
We'll see. We'll see in a minute. So this is the queen.
Okay. The queen, and where you got those clothes for? I'd swear I myself wove that cloak for my son.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Okay, yeah, keep going, yeah.
Then Odysseus responds, "Oh, great king and queen, you are matchless in your generosity, beauty, and wisdom. May the gods bless you always with health, long life, and happiness for all your children, especially your lovely daughter, Nausicaa. It was she I first encountered on this island, and when I begged her for help, she gave me these clothes and helped me find your palace. She would have brought me here herself, but the wise girl knew that tongues would wag." Oh.
Yes. So basically, if we remember book 6, so Odysseus shows up naked, and Nausicaa is there doing laundry in the river. So the queen, one of the things that we noticed about this, and her name actually even is like a symbol of her intelligence. She notices that his clothes, actually, she's like, wait, those are clothes from us. Like, how do you have those clothes? And he's like, oh, and then he has to kind of tell the truth. Like, I actually met your daughter yesterday. Blah blah blah. So, but he does do a good job of kind of protecting the daughter, in the sense that he wouldn't imply that they had anything, which they also haven't. But he's very much like focused on protecting her honor. Okay, so you can pick up here. We got one more page of the graphic novel.
Okay.
Odysseus says.
This is Odysseus says, "As for the rest of my story, it is long and weary, painful for me to even think of." And the king says, "Friends, our guest is tired. Let's go to bed. Tomorrow we will ready a ship and hold a farewell feast for him with games, dancing, and gifts. And the queen says, "I will have my servants prepare a bed for you."
Very nice. Absolutely. And so then basically Odysseus sleeps. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
So that is a summary of book 7. That's most of what we read. Wasn't the most crazy chapter, but it's you kind of come away with this like really cool impression of the civilization that you're in. And we also have this like underlying tension, not tension, but yeah, sexual tension is even fair, where we hear that there's kind of this bit of interest in between the Princess Nausicaa and Odysseus. There definitely seems to be some amount of romantic interest there. Even he had complimented her and her beauty in book 6, blah blah blah, and actually in book 7, this didn't appear in the graphic novel, but the king, Alkinoos, actually identifies Odysseus' skill and ability in charming and blah blah blah, and actually it says, "Hey, do you want to marry my daughter?" And because she is, of course, of marriageable age, and so that also happened at the end of book 7, that Odysseus has actually been asked to marry the princess, which is pretty big event as well. So,
It's very hospitable.
right, very high. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, welcome to our island. You want to marry the princess? Yeah. Okay, so book 8. That's where we're picking up today. Perfect. We're actually right on time. So, Mary, you want to read here?
Okay, book 8, the Songs of the Harper, meaning someone who's on the harp, I guess. Under the opening fingers of dawn, Alkinoos, the sacred prince, arose, and then arose Odysseus, raider of cities. As the king willed, they went down by the shipways to the assembly ground of the Phaeacian. How do
I
I
would say
say that?
Phaeacians, but I'm not 100% sure.
Phaeacians, that's okay, Phaeacians. Side by side, the two men took their ease there on smooth stone benches. Meanwhile, Pallas Athena roamed through the byways of the town, contriving Odysseus' voyage home in voice and feature.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh,
So
in
meanwhile,
voice and
Pallas Athena roamed through the byways of the town, planning Odysseus' voyage home. In voice and feature, the crier of King Alkinoos, who stopped and passed the word to every man. So basically there's somebody running around, giving this message on the streets as well.
Phaeacian lords and counselors. This person's shouting this out, it seems. Come to assembly, learn about the stranger, the new guest at the palace of Alkinoos, a man the sea drove, but a comely man. The god's own light is upon him. She aroused them, and soon the assembly ground and seats were filled with curious men, a throng who peered and saw the mastermind of war, Laertes' son. Athena now poured out her grace upon him, head and shoulders, height and mass, a splendor awesome to the eyes of the Phaeacians. She put him in a fettle to win the day, mastering every trial they set to test him. When all the crowd sat marshaled and quieted, Alkinoos addressed the full assembly. Hear me, lords and captains of the Phaeacians. Hear what my heart would have me say. Our guest and new friend, nameless to me still, comes to my house after long wandering in dawn lands or among the sunset races. Now he appeals to me for conveyance home. As in the past, therefore, let us provide passage, and quickly, for no guest of mine languishes here for lack of it. Look to it, get a black ship afloat on the noble sea, and pick our fastest sailor, draft a crew of 52 from our younger townsmen, men who have made their names at sea. Loop oars well to your holpins, lads, and leave the ship. Come to our house, fall to, and take your supper. We'll furnish you a feast for every crewman. These are your orders. As for my older peers and princes of the realm, let them foregather in festival for our friend in my great hall, and let no man refuse. Call in our minstrel, Demodocus, whom God has made Lord of Song, heart easing, sing upon what theme he will.
Okay, so you can hear the language in this translation is more challenging, definitely than the ones that we had used last time. And again, if you are reading it on your own, I definitely recommend Emily Wilson's translation. The new translation is very good, in my opinion. It's very, very good. That one. And now that I'm here, I actually have my other translation. Actually, I do want to grab it. This is translated by E.V. Ryu, R-I-E-U. A little older. You're not going to go wrong with the Emily Wilson translation. I really like this one as well. Let me actually just check while we're right here. Okay, yeah, 1946.
I have one that has a 2008 translation by Charles Stein.
Okay, and is it good? Do you like it?
Yeah, it reads well, and there's a little synopsis of each chapter as you head into it.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, cool. Yeah. So, well, talking about synopsis of chapters, what can you want to give us a quick synopsis of what has happened in this chapter so far? And if there's parts that are unclear because the language is unclear, that's no problem, and we'll look at those together.
Into chapter 8?
Yeah, from what we just read, what actually just happened?
He's been welcomed at the castle the day before, and now the town crier is going out and for the king's orders, inviting all to come, and the king says, come to our house, and he gives direct orders to young men to go assemble a boat or a ship and get it ready for Odysseus to take off. But when you're done with that, come back to the party.
Absolutely.
And there's going to be a singer.
Yes, very good, perfect, very good. So I'm trying to think if there's anything I want to add in here. So I think that sounds really good. So there's a person who spreads the message. Yes, come to the assembly, and then in the assembly, we hear Alkinoos again, who is the king, addressing the crowd. Exactly what you just said. We want to help this man get home. We're hospitable. We're going to assemble a great crew, and we do have evidence. I can't remember, or we've heard this multiple times. This is an especially impressive seafaring group. So our impression of this civilization is just supposed to be very, very positive. That they also are extremely accomplished. For example, in seafaring, there's no greater mortals than they in sailing the sea. So that's pretty impressive. Quick Old English. I wanted to say it says something about comely somewhere. Comely, another is very much a 19th century word for beautiful, or attract. Like attractive, something like that. So I don't actually see it here anymore, but I did see it there. So it comes up occasionally. Comely. No one ever says that anymore. But it's a good thing. Loop oars well to your thole pins. So pegs on the side of the boat uses oarlocks. This was helpful here. I had prepped a different translation, this is because of course we're in ancient Greece. No such thing as electricity. We're like the Greeks are seafaring people. What does that mean? They row through the Aegean. Like that's what it means. Like it's a tough life. And then there was a third word here. Oh, calling our minstrel. This is it. So I actually have to look up the word minstrel. I was expecting bard. So let's see what minstrel definition is. A medieval entertainer who traveled from place to place, especially to cite and sing and recite poetry. Okay, got it. So that actually is exactly what I would have called a bard. So a bard is what I have learned to be a minstrel, which is a person. This is kind of a form of employment. Employment's a strange word, but a form of this is a profession in ancient Greece that you can travel through. And Demodocus will be a topic of discussion this time. So that sounds good. So we bring in the bard. We assemble our sailors to get Odysseus home, and then we bring in our bard or our minstrel to entertain us for the evening, and he's going to do some storytelling.
He turned. This is a king, turned, led the procession, and those princes followed while his herald sought the minstrel. Herald is the town crier, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Young oarsmen from the assembly chose a crew of 250 as the king commanded. And these, the 250, filed off along the waterside to where the ship lay, poised above open water. They handed the black hull down to ride the sea, rigging a mast and spar on the black ship with oars at trail from corded rawhide, all seamanly, and then tried the white sail, hoisting and moored her off the beach. Then going ashore, the crew went up to the great house of Alkinoos. Here the enclosures, entranceways, and rooms were filled with men, young men and old, for whom Alkinoos had put 12 sheep to sacrifice, 8 tuskers. I don't know what that is.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look. Animals with tusks, such as boars. Okay, I also, again, this is not the translation I prepped. Part of that's for readability, so I know what happens when it comes here. So this is also not the word that was in mine. So animals with tusks, such as boars.
Oh, okay. Yeah, tuskless. Okay. A pair of shambling oxen. Now, they flayed and dressed to make their banquet. The crier soon came, leading that man of song whom the muse cherished. By her gift, he knew the good of life and evil, for she who lent him sweetness made him blind. Pontonous fixed a studded chair for him, hard by a pillar, and the banqueteers, hanging the taut harp from a peg above him, and guided up his hands upon the strings, placed a bread basket at his side, and poured wine in a cup that he might drink his fill. Now, each man's hand went out upon the banquet.
Okay, very nice. So, hold on, wait. So, first thing, you did a big when you got here. What was the about? I'm wondering if this is what it was about.
Oh yeah, the blind singer, I think.
Right. Okay. So what are you talking about?
Character we've heard of. I don't know what, but it's, well, if you're blind, you can still sing.
Right. Absolutely.
And they're making him feel where the harp is. Other than that, I don't remember.
So a couple things here. So basically, I'm trying to think if there's anything we really need to really comment on here. They prep the boat. We have a big festival, not festival, that's the wrong word, celebratory kind of thing. So a couple things I want to make a note of here before we even get to this part. So Alkinoos had put 12 sheep to sacrifice, 8 tuskers, and a pair of shambling oxen. These now they flayed and dressed to make their banquet. The first point I want to make here is we hear about this in the Old Testament. I feel like this is one of those things that people hear, oh, they sacrificed blah 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 12 oxen, and certainly again Old Testament. It's not like verbiage that's like totally foreign to us. But I do, and I believe we've talked about this before. I can't recall if this was this series or a different series I did that we talked about this a bit. But I do just want to comment here really quick that like sacrificing in the ancient world was very normal. So this would be obviously from pre-Old Testament times through, obviously sacrifice is a continued thing now. I mean, we still talk about making sacrifices for God, in Christianity, for example. That concept is not gone. But sacrificing live beings is very much a part of the ancient world. So, for example, obviously the Old Testament, you hear about sacrificing sheep, oxen, blah, blah, all the time. Obviously, also we have the story of Abraham, who doesn't end up sacrificing his son. Human sacrifice is not always accepted, but there are definitely cases also in the Roman Empire of human sacrifices. So one something this isn't a human sacrifice, but you do have the Vestal Virgins, for example, in the city of Rome. Rome is later than this. The city of Rome is later than this work for sure, several hundred years later. But you had the Vestal Virgins, who were women who had to tend to a divine fire. They were selected at a very young age, I believe 8, but maybe it's 12, something like that. They're selected at a very young age, and then they go and live in something that's like a convent, and never allowed to ever have any sex. They're very well paid. They're certainly very well taken care of. If they're suspected of having sex, what happens is they take the Vestal Virgin, they dig a hole, and they put it like a room there. Then they put her in there and they seal it up. She just waits under the ground until she dies. So that's what happened with the Vestal Virgins, and obviously it's somewhat difficult to verify they did do this, and so it's difficult to know exactly what number that happened to. Human sacrifice was seen differently in different cultures, but also human sacrifice was something that also happened, for example, in the Incans in South America as well. But the point I was actually trying to make here, I was kind of getting off on a little bit of a sidetrack. The sacrifices would be, there is a belief in ancient Mesopotamia, at least. I don't believe it's shared by the Greeks. I'm not 100% sure about this right now, so take this with a grain of salt. But how the gods eat is that you have ambrosia in ancient Greece. This is why I don't believe this is shared by ancient Greece. But one of the reasons why it's important to sacrifice to the gods, and one of the reasons why the gods care that you sacrifice to them, is you take an animal, you kill it, you slaughter it, then you burn it. And then by completely burning it, that kind of meat, because we would eat the meat, right? They kind of view the gods as invisible, but kind of omnipresent. And so they kind of come and suck the animal particles out of the smoke, and that's how the gods are nourished. And also in ancient Greece, they're called libations. You pour wine, frequently a full bottle of wine, on the ground, and that is a sacrifice. It's a libation such that the gods can be nourished by that wine. And so the gods really care that you make the sacrifices to them. And so here, we do frequently. You do have things that sacrifices to the gods, and this is why I believe it is different in ancient Greece. Although again, take it with a grain of salt because I may be mistaken on this. This is something I should know, but I don't know right now. Is obviously they're going to eat these animals, but it's still a sacrifice. But we also have that same experience in the Christian church, for example. Again, I do this because obviously these traditions pull all the way back, but the thinking stems actually from this time or a little bit later than that. 1,000 years later, not a little bit later, but 1,000 years later than this, where we'll be like, oh, the sacrifice of bread and wine, and then basically we break the bread and then we eat it, or we drink the wine. So in what way is it a sacrifice, right? But it's the idea of certainly killing the animals is a sacrifice to the gods. So kind of a side note on the concept of sacrifice there. But of course, sacrifice is an important part of any non-vegetarian celebration in the ancient world. And so, yeah. So that was kind of a side note there. Anything you want to comment on there, Mary?
No.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so now we're back here. Is there anything you wanted to comment on? I know you remembered some things we said last time. So the crier soon came, the bard, the minstrel, I guess. I haven't used that word previously. The crier soon came, led by that man of song. Oh, excuse me, leading that man of song. Oh, excuse me. So this is not this is the herald. Sorry, the herald still came, leading that man of song, whom the muse cherished. By her gift he knew the good of life and evil. For she lent him sweetness. For she who lent him sweetness made him blind. The muses are the nymphs of music. So she who lent him sweetness made his voice very beautiful, because bards, yes, they're telling stories, but they're doing it in a very musical way. And that's, by the way, why this translation is kind of in verse. Even though it's not necessarily rhyming, you can hear the rhythmic nature of it. You can see that all the lines are roughly the same length. It's poetry. This is how the Greek version is as well. So the Greek version is very much poetry. It's obviously impossible to translate that perfectly. And so there's an attempt here to kind of capture that rhythmic element here. So anyway, so she, the muse, who gave him the sweetness of voice, made him blind. He's blind. We'll come back, unless there's something you want to say, Mary, about him being blind now. We'll come back to that later.
Yeah, later.
Sounds good. Okay, where were we? So, but it is important that he's blind. It is important that the bard is blind. Okay, sounds good. I believe we're all good here. I think we left off here. Is that right?
We didn't do Pontonos.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
Pontonos fixed a studded chair for him, hard by a pillar in the banqueteers. Hanging the taut harp. You're right. So back down to in time, when hunger and thirst were turned away, the muse brought to the minstrel's mind a song of heroes whose great fame rang under heaven. The clash between Odysseus and Achilles.
Yes,
is
absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
Okay. How one time they contended at the god feast raging, and the martial Agamemnon felt inward joy over his captain's quarrel, for such had been foretold him by Apollo at Pytho. Hallowed height, when the Achaean crossed that portal of rock to ask a sign in the old days, when grim war lay ahead for Trojans and Danaans, by God's will, so ran the tale the minstrel sang. Odysseus with massive hand drew his rich mantle down over his brow, cloaking his face with it, to make the Phaeacians miss the secret tears that started to his eyes. How skillfully he dried them when the song came to a pause.
Okay, so what even happened here? This is just one paragraph, but what happened here in this paragraph? Do we know?
Well, it's the singer is singing the Odysseus story.
Exactly.
And how does he know that? So the gods are at work here, because when you can't explain something, they've been doing stuff. That's it. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Very, very good, Mary. Very, very good. So, in time, when hunger and thirst were turned away, so they've all eaten and drank, the muse, goddess of music essentially, one of the goddesses of music, one of the demigods of music, brought to the minstrel's mind a song of heroes. So the bard is singing a song of heroes whose great fame is something that everybody knows. The clash between Odysseus and Achilles, who Achilles, by the way, is a god, but the clash between Odysseus and Achilles, how one time they contended at the god feast raging, and the martial Agamemnon felt inward joy over the captain's quarrel. Blah, blah, blah. So basically, he's telling these stories about these Greek heroes. And Odysseus, there's a certain irony here that Odysseus is the person that he's singing about, right? So the Trojan War happened 10 years ago at this moment in the story. And this clash happened prior to that. And so this story of Odysseus battling Achilles is now the nature of legend. And so it's something they don't know they have Odysseus here, but it's just, that Odysseus has these great deeds in his past, has become the thing of myth. the Iliad and the Odyssey. The Iliad is in theory, again, takes place 10 years prior to this book. And so the singer is telling about Odysseus. The storyteller is telling about Odysseus. So ran the tale the minstrel sang. Odysseus, with a massive hand, drew his rich mantle down. So he's kind of wearing something like this, and he draws his mantle down. Mantle is also even a word in kind of older English, certainly 19th century English, where it's kind of like a heavy overcoat. And it's actually the same word, it's the same word in German now today. Mantel is still, what is that called? Like kind of, I don't know what you call them, but those, like heavy overcoats. Mantle down over his brow, cloaking his face with it to make the Phaeacians miss the secret tears that started down his eyes. So he's hearing the story about his past, and these are like fighting in a war. It's certainly glorified, but for him, he starts sobbing to himself. But he's very coy, and so he dries those tears when the song comes to his pause, so nobody notices.
Yeah, he covered up the fact that he was crying because he obviously didn't want them to see his tears for whatever reason. He threw back his mantle, spilled his gout of wine.
Oops, sorry.
Soon the minstrel plucked his note once more to please the Phaeacian lords who loved the song, and then in his cloak Odysseus wept again. His tears flowed in the mantle unperceived. Only Alkinoos at his elbow saw them and caught the low groan in the man's breathing. At once he spoke to all the sea folk around him. Hear me, lords and captains of the Phaeacians. Our meat is shared. Our hearts are full of pleasure from the clear harp tone that accords with feasting. Field and track, we shall have, sports. We shall have trials in the pentathlon. Let our guest go home and tell his friends what champions we are at boxing, wrestling, broad jump, and foot racing.
Okay, so what happened here, Mary?
The king saw that Odysseus was weeping, and in order to not prolong that, he said, okay, time for the sports.
Right. Exactly right.
That's
Perfect.
Kind of so
again, very, very, subtly great, host. So sounds good. On this, he being Alkinoos, the king, on this he led the way and all went after. The crier unsung and pegged the shining harp and, taking Demodocus' hand, led him along with the rest, Phaeacian peers, gay amateurs of the great games. They gained the common, where a crowd was forming, and many a young athlete now came forward with seaside names like Tipmast, Tide Race, Sparwood, Holman, Sternman, Beecher, and Pullerman, Blue Water, Shearwater, Running Wake, Bordeley, Seabelt, and son of Grandfleet Shipwrightson. Sea Reach stepped up, son of the launching master, rugged Ares, bane of men. His build excelled all but the prince Laodamas, and Laodamas made entry with his brothers Helios and Clutonius, sons of the king. The runners first must have their quarter mile. All lined up, tense, then go, and down the track they raised the dust in a flying bunch, strung out longer and longer behind Prince Clutonius. By just so far as a mule team breaking ground will distance oxen, he left all behind and came up to the crowd an easy winner. Then they made room for wrestling, grinding bouts that Sea Reach won, pinning the strongest men, and the broad jump. The first place went to Seabelt. Sparwood gave the discus the mightiest fling, and Prince Laodamas outboxed them all. I didn't do a great job of reading that. Also, I have a different translation. I was totally caught off guard by these names. So these are translated names, obviously. So that kind of caught me off guard right there. But what we basically see here is the games have started. We're seeing track and field games that exist still today. And obviously the Olympics, we all know the Olympics come from ancient Greece. Track and field games are very much a direct modern descendant. Discus is the same concept. I'm sure there's some differences in the rules, and I couldn't tell you what they are because I don't even know the rules of modern discus, but it is very much a descendant of the game that was played in ancient Greece. Wrestling, same thing. And so we basically hear these fabulous games have started, and these ones won. So that's all that happened in that paragraph. Okay, now you can pick back up, Mary.
Okay, now it was he, the son of Alkanos, who said when they had run through these diversions, look here, friends, we ought to ask the stranger if he competes in something. He's no cripple. Look at his leg muscles and his forearms. Neck like a bollard, strong as a bull, he seems, and not old, though he may have gone stale under the rough times he had. Nothing like the sea for wearing out the toughest man alive. Then Sea Reach took him up at once and said, Laodamus, you are right. By all the powers, go up to him yourself and put the question. At this, Alkanos' tall son advanced to the center ground and there addressed Odysseus. Friend, Excellency, come and join our competition. If you are practiced, as you seem to be, while a man lives, he wins no greater honor than footwork and the skill of hands can bring him. Enter our games then. Ease your heart of trouble. Your journey home is not far off. Remember, the ship is launched, the crew all primed for sea. Odysseus, canniest of men, replied, Laodamus, why do you young chaps challenge me? I have more on my mind than track and field. Hard days and many have I seen and suffered. I sit here at your field meet, yes, but only as one who begs your king to send him home.
Okay, very nice. So what just happened here?
Well, they realized this guy is pretty strong looking. Maybe we should invite him to join the games. But he says, hey, I'm a little old and I've got a sea voyage ahead of me. So you go ahead and do it. I'll watch.
Okay, sounds good. That's
kind
perfect.
Of what I think he said.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Odysseus frowned. I eyed him coldly. Wait.
So right here.
No. Yeah. Now Sea Reach put his word in and contentiously. The reason being, as I see it, friend, you never learned a sport and have no skill in any of the contests of fighting men. You must have been the skipper of some tramp that crawled from one port to the next, jam full of chauffeuring hands, a tallier of cargoes, itching for gold, not by your looks an athlete. Odysseus frowned, eyed him coldly, saying, that was uncalled for, friend. You talk like a fool. The gods dealt out no gift, this one or any birth, brains, or speech to every man alike. In looks a man may be a shade, a spectre, and yet be master of speech, so crowned with beauty that people gaze at him with pleasure. Courteous, sure of himself, he can command assemblies, and when he comes to town, the crowds gather. A handsome man, contrariwise, may lack grace and good sense in everything he says. You now, for instance, with your fine physique, a god's indeed. You may have an empty noddle. I find my heart inside my ribs, aroused by your impertinence. I am no stranger to contests, as you fancy. I rated well when I could count on youth as my two hands. Now pain has cramped me in my years of combat, hacking through ranks in war and the bitter sea. Aye, even so, I'll give your games a trial. You spoke heart-wounding words. You shall be answered.
Okay, so what just happened here, Mary?
The impertinent young man challenged him, saying, you should be joining us. And Odysseus says, you're really impertinent. You're impolite. You shouldn't be talking this way. But yeah, I will go ahead and do some game thing. I'll do some activity. But he also said that speaking well is a talent as much as a
absolutely
athletic
no perfect
capacity.
And it's amazing that you can read this and follow it. It's terrific because the language is very difficult, so that's terrific. So the one thing I kind of want to highlight here, in addition to what you said, is so Sea Reach,
their job description. I think those names she gave the guys are job descriptions of what you do on the boat.
Yeah, it does. It certainly sounds like that, doesn't it? And so, yeah, absolutely. I had essentially names that had no meaning to me in the sense that they were just Greek words. But Sea Reach gets his word in and says, you're a tallier of cargoes itching for gold, not by your looks an athlete. So the first thing I kind of want to highlight here is that, like, this is clearly an insult, right? So this is not somebody who's just trying to be nice. This is somebody who is, he's saying, okay, you keep track of like what the goods are. Basically, itching for gold. You're probably just a greedy man. You're even getting this. You're getting shipped home now. These games are in your honor. You don't even look like an athlete. You look like an old man. Blah blah. So he is impertinent. Like he's pretty rude, right? So that's pretty fair. That's just the point I want to make, because I did kind of want to highlight this, that it's like we're supposed to pretty clearly perceive that this sea reach guy is very verbally aggressively taking on Odysseus, and Odysseus is being like, okay, I'll take you on. I'm old, but I'll take you on. Okay, sounds good. Keep going.
He leapt out, cloaked as he was, and picked a discus, a rounded stone more ponderous than those already used by the Phaeacian throwers, and whirling, let it fly from his great hand with a low hum. The crowd went flat on the ground, all those oar-pulling, seafaring Phaeacians under the rushing noise. The spinning disc soared out, light as a bird, beyond all others. Disguised now as a Phaeacian, Athena staked it and called out. Even a blind man, friend, could judge this, finding with his fingers one discus quite alone beyond the cluster. Congratulations, this event is yours. Not a man here can beat you or come near you. That was a cheering hail, Odysseus thought, seeing one friend there on the emulous field. So in relief, he turned among the Phaeacians and said, now come alongside that one, lads. The next one I'll send as far, I think, or farther. Anyone else on edge for competition, try me now. By heaven, you angered me, racing, wrestling, boxing. I bar nothing with any man except Laodamas, for he's my host. Who quarrels with his host? Only a madman, or no man at all, would challenge his protector among strangers, cutting the ground away under his feet. Here are no others. I will not engage, but I hope to know what he is made of.
Perfect. Okay, so you're just gonna keep going. I think this was clear enough. It's not crucial to the story either. The only point I'm gonna make here is, so I'm gonna make 2 quick points. One, ponderous is another word for weighty. So he actually throws the weightiest, the heaviest discus, and it goes way further than anybody else. So that's kind of like, that's just an additional fact. Second thing is Athena. Athena is just here, and she just like appears and is like, oh, helping Odysseus. Okay, I'm gone. Helping Odysseus. Okay, I'm gone. And so, it does kind of show a bit how, one, she's obviously, we like Athena, but then 2, it does kind of show how the Greeks think that the gods kind of interact with the world, because she's just like acting like one of the she's just acting one of the Phaeacians. So that's pretty cool. So what happens on these following pages, and they're definitely interesting. And the other thing is, it reminds me a bit of like Lord of the Rings, not necessarily, but it's kind of like, is this crucial to the plot of the story? It is not. Like, if this section weren't here, where Odysseus kind of comes in and just kills in the games, or even like Quidditch in Harry Potter, this is a part of the story that's not crucial to the overall plot, but gives us some important character developments, gives us some important insights into like what the Greeks perceive as important in a great man, cultural, sport focus, all sorts of things. It's very interesting. And so, so that's pretty important. Actually, there is one thing here I do want to, will you read just this half right here, Mary?
Inept at combat, am I? Not entirely. Give me a smooth bow. I can handle it, and I might well be first to hit any man amid a swarm of enemies, though archers in company around me drew together. Philoctetes alone at Troy, when we Achaeans took the bow, used to outshoot me.
Okay, perfect. That's good. That's good for now.
He's revealing where he's been.
Exactly. So he does. So we get a hint here that, because right now he's an anonymous stranger. We even heard Alkino's comment that he still doesn't even know his name, which is true. And so this stranger right now, Odysseus, is entirely anonymous. And so now we've had the first bit of information that he is at Troy. So that's pretty important. Like, not super important, but it does come out later in the story. Okay, let me see here. So Alkinoos, the king, says, friend, we take your challenge in good part, for this man angered and affronted you here at our peaceful games, blah, blah, blah. You have us clearly note the prowess that is in you. So he's just been pretty impressive. So that's good. Perform now. Let our guest, on his return, tell his companions we excel in the world in song and dance. as in our ships and running. So now he's going to go forward, and so now basically what the Phaeacians, Phaeacians are going to do is go ahead and do some song and dance. So they go and find the harp, and we get back to Demodocus, who is the blind bard again. Demodocus. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble saying that today. So that we're actually getting back to the bard.
Now to his harp, the blinded minstrel sang of Ares' dalliance with Aphrodite, how hidden in Hephaestus' house they played at love together, and the gifts of Ares dishonoring Hephaestus' bed, and how the word that wounds the heart came to the master from Helios, who had seen the two embrace. And when he learned it, Lord Hephaestus went with baleful calculation to his forge. There mightily he armed his anvil block and hammered out a chain whose tempered links could not be sprung or bent. He meant that they should hold. Those shackles fastened. Hot in wrath, Hephaestus climbed to the bower and the bed of love, pulled all his net of chain around the bedposts and swung it from the rafters overhead, light as a cobweb. Even gods in bliss could not perceive so wonderful his cunning. Seeing his bed now made a snare, he feigned a journey to the trim stronghold of Lemnos, the dearest of earth's towns to him. And Ares? Golden Ares' watch had its reward when he beheld the great smith leaving home. How promptly to the famous door he came, intent on pleasure with sweet Cytherea. She who had left her father's side, but now sat in her chamber when her lover entered, and tenderly he pressed her hand and said, "Come and lie down, my darling, and be happy. Hephaestus is no longer here, but gone to see his grunting Sintian friends on Lemnos." And she too thought repose would be most welcome. The pair went into bed, into a shower of clever chains, the netting of Hephaestus. So trussed they could not move apart nor rise. At last they knew there could be no escape. They were to see the glorious cripple now, for Helios had spied for him and told him. So he turned back this side of Lemnos Isle, sick at heart, making his way homeward. Now in the doorway of the room he stood, while deadly rage took hold of him. His voice, hoarse and terrible, reached all the gods. Oh, fathers.
Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna pause here. So we are gonna skip over this. So basically what is happening here? We have Demodocus is telling us this is a story very typical in ancient Greece. Is these bards repeat Greek mythology. Greek mythology is a combination of stories about the gods and goddesses that kind of come together to form this half scientific, half mythical world that is the real world. So in this story, I just want to kind of summarize it real quick. So Ares is the god of war, Aphrodite is the goddess of love, and of course she's very, very sexy. And Hephaestus is the god of metalworking. So basically, what happens here? Right, this is what I was thinking. I'm like, wait, this is the lame god of fire and metalworking, the husband of Aphrodite. So, but what happens here is Helios is Apollo, the sun god, and he is with Aphrodite, and Aphrodite is having an affair with Ares, and Hephaestus, he spins up these chains that the gods are going to get trapped in, blah, blah, blah. So we're just actually seeing a typical story where we have this like mythology, kind of mythological thing happening in the story. This is a famous thing in Greek mythology, and so that happens, and then we hear more about the gods. We're going to skip over that now. No dash in adultery. So that is all kind of cool mythological stuff, and we hear, there's different tellings of different stories that come out in different texts, right? But that's what is going on here. So we are going to skip over that, but I definitely recommend, if you want to read it and then kind of just like, you could even just like Google the story. I'm sure it'll come right up, and kind of see what this telling is versus what other tellings are. So that's cool. But the other reason that that's important is we hear all these stories about the gods. Hephaestus is talking with Ares. The Earthshaker, that's Poseidon. We have these stories about the gods. So ran the song the minstrel sang. Then we're gonna pick up here. So we've heard stories about the gods. What happens next?
Odysseus, listening, found sweet pleasure in the tale among the Phaeacian mariners and oarsmen. And next, Alcinous called upon his sons Helios and Laodamas to show the dance no one could do as well as they. Handling a purple ball carven by Polybos, one made it shoot up under the shadowing clouds as he leaned backwards, bounding high in the air. The other cut its flight far off the ground, and neither missed a step as the ball soared. The next turn was to keep it low and shuttling hard between them, while the ring of boys gave them a steady stamping beat. Odysseus now addressed Alcinous. "Oh, Majesty, model of all your folk, your promise was to show me peerless dancers. Here's the promise kept. I am all a wonder." At this, Alcinous, in his might, rejoicing, said to the seafarers of Phaeacia, "Attend me now, Phaeacian lords and captains. Our guest appears a clear-eyed man and wise. Come, let him feel our bounty as he should. Here are 12 princes of the kingdom, lords paramount, and I who make 13. Let each one bring a laundered cloak and tunic, and add 1 bar of honorable gold. Heap all our gifts together, load his arms, let him go joyous to our evening feast. As for Sea Reach, why, man to man, he'll make amends, and handsomely," he blundered.
Very nice. So you read it so beautifully, Mary. It's very impressive that you can just come across these Greek words and just blah, blah, blah. Like, great, like, so impressive. So, great job. So what happened here?
Well, it looks like the sons of the king, 2 of them, are playing something akin to basketball or tennis or something, and they're batting a ball back and forth and keeping it from falling down, and they're doing it beautifully with their bodies in some way.
Absolutely. So, and this is the dancing, actually. They're doing it to music, and so they're like, this is this very impressive show. And interestingly, just a little comment here, one thing that we do see is that Odysseus here is very much impressed by this. Neither misses a step as the ball soared. Yeah, absolutely. Odysseus, he's like, oh man. Obviously, he praises him, but I have the impression that this is also genuine praise. I mean, obviously we hear, because we're not kind of like, we don't hear, and then cunning Odysseus said, or something like that. Like, I have the impression this is Odysseus' genuine opinion, that he is very impressed with the peerless dancers. And so the king is very proud. But one of the things I think that it's fair for us to take away from this, at least I do, in perhaps my naivete, is that, like, Odysseus, when it came to the discus throwing and, you know, the physical athletics, the track and field, Odysseus, who's like the hero, is like, blah, blah, can like step in and just like win. You know, and like that's like the point, is like Odysseus can just step in and win that. Do I think that Odysseus could have just stepped in at the dancing and won? I don't think that's something that we're supposed to be able to read into this. Like, I don't have that impression at all. And so I do think it kind of tells us something about, like, you know, this is a very impressive thing, but as we might expect from similar modern biases, you know, what belongs to being the great man in the mind of the ancient Greeks. And this is something we talked about, patriarchy being a major theme, hospitality being a major theme. Something that I haven't really highlighted but should be highlighted is what is a great man is another major theme. And this is something that is also kind of being, again, taught to children. What is a great man? And one of the things that is a great man that is being taught is definitely excellence in athletics, you know, excellence in war and excellence in athletics. Is it also true that being excellence in dancing is part of that list? No, right? So not, you know, we don't have that impression from here. Excellence in dancing is great. Like, really enjoyed it, was very impressive. But the great man can see it and be impressed and be like, this was really great. But it's not necessarily, for example, his skill set. So that was kind of just a side point I wanted to make there. Keep going. Or I don't know if there's something I don't know if I cut you off. There's something you want to say?
No, he's complimenting the host on this wonderful talent that is displayed in front of him.
Absolutely. And that's also very important as well. Absolutely. You're right about that. That he's already even commented on that previously verbally, like, you never offend your host. Because what are you doing? You're cutting off your own legs. And then and that's the thing. Like, there is even a question of whether it's quite as impressive as he says it is. I have the impression it is genuine, but that's a good point. That definitely that rapport, positive rapport with the host is intelligent, and that's something that's explicitly said more than once. Absolutely.
And then the host, the king says, well, okay, you guys, all 12 of you and me, we each are going to give him a laundered cloak, not a dirty one, and a tunic. And so he's got plenty of clothes for the trip, not to mention a bar of gold from each of you. And we're going to give it to him, and he can go on to the feast. And as for the guy who was so insulting to him, he's going to have to deal with it, and he'll be making amends a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like, this is also, there's something slightly dreamy about this. They're in this beautiful kingdom. There's the beautiful princess who's interested in him. He goes there. He's day 2. They don't even know his name, and they just really like him, and they're like, take some gold. So there's definitely something like slightly Wonderlandy about this place. And so yeah, we come out with a great impression of these people, but I think this is also supposed to kind of like pull at our heartstrings a little bit. I'm gonna go. So he gets more presents. A beautiful broadsword that has a silver hilt. More presents. This is amazing. He's having this amazing experience. He gets kind of an apology as well. And Odysseus, the great tactician, answers, "My hand, friend, may the gods award you fortune. I have no pressing need. I hope no pressing need comes on you ever for this fine blade you give me in amends." So he gets an additional beautiful present from the guy who was annoying previously. So that's just this really great experience. And I think this is supposed to kind of capture the imagination of the Greek of being like, man, I'd love to go on a journey. I do think it kind of is adventure baiting a bit, if I can say that, because I think it's like, this is a part of the adventure. Oh yes, and Arete is I was like, what is her name? The queen's name is Arete. Arete is the ancient Greek word for excellence. So we have alkanos, which is, I believe this was strength. I can't remember. Alka is, I believe, strength, and nos is mind. So strong mind is married to excellence, for example. And so we just have this amazing impression of this kingdom. One of the things, just another side note, I'm sorry about this, is we have this amazing impression of this kingdom. He has been offered the opportunity to marry the beautiful princess, who is a hot young girl. Like, he's a lot older. So that's also, all this stuff. And she's obviously interested in him. She's beautiful. So we, and one of the things that we're going to notice is that he doesn't choose to stay. He chooses to go home to Ithaca, to his wife. He never has any relations with the princess. Now, he has relations with Calypso, which were not entirely voluntary on his part, or definitely weren't voluntary on his part. I think that's supposed to be definitely forgivable. 1, because he's a man, and 2, because they weren't entirely voluntary. And so we kind of have one of the things that we're supposed to see here is loyalty to wife, family, and city as well. When he doesn't choose to stay, when we've had just this incredible experience with this otherwise foreign civilization. The Arete, the queen, gives him more presents. There is a place I want to get. I just have to find it. Okay, let's actually pick up here. You want to pick up here, Mary?
The Princess Nausicaa, exquisite figure as of heaven shaping, waited beneath a pillar as he passed, and said swiftly, with wonder in her look, "Farewell, stranger, in your land remember me who met and saved you. It is worth your thought." The man of all occasions now met this daughter of great Alkanos Nausicaa. May Zeus, the Lord of Thunder, Hera's consort, grant me daybreak again in my own country. But there and all my days until I die, may I invoke you as I would a goddess, princess, to whom I owe my life. He left her and went to take his place beside the king.
Okay, yeah. So that's great. So we do have this, we have, again, this is kind of the option that he's turning down. We didn't talk about this quite as much as I wanted to, but let's pick up, you want to pick up here, Mary?
Gentle Demodocus took the proffered gift and inwardly rejoiced. When all were served, every man's hand went out upon the banquet, repelling hunger and thirst, until at length Odysseus spoke again to the blind minstrel. "Demodocus, accept my utmost praise. The muse, daughter of Zeus in radiance, or else Apollo, gave you skill to shape with such great style your songs of the Achaeans, their hard lot, how they fought and suffered war. You shared it, one would say, or heard it all. Now shift your theme and sing that wooden horse, Phaeacian built, inspired by Athena, the ambuscade Odysseus filled with fighters and sent to take the inner town of Troy. Sing only this for me, sing me this well, and I shall say it once before the world, the grace of heaven has given us a song. The minstrel stirred, murmuring to the god, and soon clear words and notes came out one by one, a vision of the Achaeans in their graceful ships drawing away from shore, the torches flung and shelters flaring. Argives soldiers crouched in the close dark around Odysseus and the horse, tall on the assembly ground of Troy. For when the Trojans pulled it in themselves up to the citadel, they sat nearby with long drawn out and hapless argument, favoring in the end one course of three, either to stave the vault with brazen axes, or haul it to a cliff and pitch it down, or else to save it for the gods, a votive glory, the plan that could not but prevail. For Troy must perish as ordained that day. She harbored the great horse of timber, hidden the flower of Achaea lay, and bore slaughter and death upon the men of Troy. He sang then of the town sacked by Achaeans, pouring down from the horse's hollow cave, this way and that, raping the steep city, and how Odysseus came like Ares to the door of Delphos with Menelaus and braved the desperate flight there, conquering once more by Athena's power. Splendid minstrel sang it, and Odysseus let the bright molten tears run down his cheeks, weeping the way a wife mourns for her lord on the lost field where he has gone down fighting, the day of wrath that came upon his children. At sight of the man panting and dying there, she slips down to enfold him, crying out, then feels the spears prodding her back and shoulders, and goes bound into slavery and grief. Piteous weeping wipes away her cheeks, but no more piteous than Odysseus' tears, cloaked as they were now from the company.
So what happened here?
The guys on the island brought in the wooden horse, and the men and soldiers are in there, and they're debating what to do. The guys on the island are debating what to do about it. And meanwhile, the soldiers come down and rape and pillage their way across the area.
Wait, so almost. So that's right. But what actually happens here is, so Odysseus speaks to the blind minstrel. So Odysseus speaks to the bard, to Demodocus. Okay, he's the guy who's singing. He's the entertainer. He is singing the stories. He was the one who sang the stories before. Yeah. So now Odysseus says to him, "Tell me about the wooden horse." We've all heard of the Trojan horse even today, right? So tell me about the Trojan horse inspired by Athena, and tell me about how Odysseus, and this is Odysseus telling the bard to do this, tell me about the story of how Odysseus filled the Trojan horse with fighters and sent it into the town of Troy. So Odysseus asks the bard, asks the court entertainer to tell the story of the Trojan horse. And the Trojan horse is that story that you just told. So this actually didn't happen in real time. This happened in the Trojan War, which in this context happened 10 years prior. And Odysseus is actually the mastermind of the Trojan horse. So he is essential in the fall of Troy in the sense that he has encouraged the Trojan horse to happen. So we heard here the story of the Trojan horse as told by the bard, which is correct. You know, this is actually how it went down for Odysseus as well, is that they kind of get into there and they're all like, what should we do with this horse? Like the Trojans are all like, what should we do with this horse? And then they all come out and they conquer Troy. So that's how they got through the gates of Troy, is in the Trojan horse. That it's basically that they send them a gift of a giant horse to like go through and they let it into the city, and while they're trying to figure out what to do with it, they open the horse in the middle of the night, and all the men rush out while all the Trojans are sleeping from inside the gates and kill them all. And that's how Troy is finally conquered after so many years at war. So that's the story of the Trojan horse, and so he sings it. The bard sings that story as Odysseus asked for, and Odysseus is crying as he hears the story because he is like remembering he was there and remembers everybody. You know, he remembers the war, and so it brings back slavery and grief. So that's the point. And then only Alkinoos at his elbow knew, hearing the low sob in the man's breathing. And when he spoke, he said, "Hear me, lords and captains of Phaeacia. Let Demodocus touch his harp no more. Stop singing. His theme has not been pleasing to all here. During the feast, since our fine poet sang, our guest has never left off weeping. Grief seems fixed upon his heart. Break off the song. Let everyone be easy, host and guest. There's more decorum in a smiling banquet. Okay, so now he's talking to Odysseus. Come in fairness, tell me the name you bore in that far country. How were you known to family and to neighbors? No man is nameless. No man, good or bad, but gets a name in his first infancy, none being born unless a mother bears him. Tell me your native land, tell me your coast and city. So who are you? He's like, who are you? Why are you crying when you hear the story of the Trojan War? And let me see if there's anything else I want to hide here or say here. So that's what happens here. Okay, Mary, you want to pick up?
Hidden in mist or cloud, they scud the open sea with never a thought of being in distress or going down. There is, however, something I once heard Nausithous, my father, say. Poseidon holds it against us that our deep sea ships are sure conveyances for all passengers. My father said, someday one of our cutters homeward bound over the cloudy sea would be wrecked by the god and a range of hills thrown around our city. So in his age, he said, and let it be or not, as the god please. But come now, put it for me clearly. Tell me the seaways that you wandered and the shores you touched, the cities and the men therein, uncivilized if such there were, and hostile, and those God-fearing who had kindly manners. Tell me why you should grieve so terribly over the Argives and the fall of Troy. That was all God's work, weaving ruin there, so it should make a song for men to come. Some kin of yours then died at Ilion, some first-rate man, by marriage near to you, next your own blood most dear, or some companion of congenial mind and valor. True it is, a wise friend can take a brother's place in our affection.
Okay, perfect. So, the end of the chapter, and then this is where we're going to have to wrap up. The end of the chapter, we have this very long, this is the epic ending of the chapter that he's like, tell me who you are. Instead of just hearing it like once, like, okay, I really want to know who you are. It's this kind of dramatic ancient Greek style of like, it's possible, like, the no man is nameless, blah, blah, blah. And then it's possible, it seems that you've had these contact with someone who went to Troy. So it's the dramatic ending of the chapter is basically the king, who we really like, is like, you need to tell me your identity, and it's a very long speech instead of just being like, who are you? It's this very long, like, kind of like plea for his identity, and even he doesn't even imagine that Odysseus could have been there himself. It's some kin of yours then died, some first-rate man by marriage near to you, or even next your own blood, most dear, or some companion of a congenial mind and valor, who can be as close as a brother. So that's how the chapter ends. It's just like and then Odysseus is gonna have to be like, I am Odysseus, where it's like, I am the one who came up with the Trojan horse. I fought at Troy, blah, blah, blah. And so it's the thing of legend that the bard has been singing about in entertainment all night. He's actually the star of all of it, the unknown star of all of it. So that's kind of where the book leaves off, and we are left at a bit of a cliffhanger of what's going to happen when Odysseus reveals his identity. Any last comments, Mary?
No, it just makes me think of that TV show from the 50s, What's My Line, where somebody would come on and you had to guess his occupation. Jimmy Carter came on before he had really run for president. Nobody knew who he was. So tell us who you are. We want to know who you are. That's what this is.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's good. I like that, actually. That's great. That's really good. I've seen like a snippet of that. I haven't seen much. Okay, absolutely. That's good. So, okay, great. Well, Mary, once again, you're such a good reader. I really appreciate it. You are so terrific to have. I also need to start doing reminder emails because I want to pull back in. I think we have like a group of people who are interested and engaged and would love to pick back up, and I haven't done a very good job of like reminding you guys actively, like, come. So I'm gonna try and start doing that better. But I really appreciate your joining. Terrific job once again. And I really appreciate it. So great job.